All right, let's talk about a podcast that chances are you've at least heard of, Crime Junkie. It's one of the biggest shows in the world and also one of the most controversial. If you're someone who gets sucked into those late-night crime stories, trying to piece together what really happened, well, you're going to want to stick around for this.
But before we dig into the show itself, let's ask the big question, right? The one that's kind of at the heart of this whole thing. Why are so many of us completely obsessed with these real-life horror stories? I mean, think about it. It's a little weird, but it's also absolutely fascinating.
So let's get into it. How did this show go from a conversation on a couch to an absolute global phenomenon?
I mean, the show's growth was just insane. It started back in 2017. Just two friends, Ashley Flowers and Britt Prowett, basically doing what friends do, talking about crime stories they were obsessed with. But then, boom, within just a couple of years, it wasn't a small passion project anymore. It had completely exploded onto the scene.
And when I say exploded, I'm not kidding. Just look at the scale of this thing. We're talking millions of listeners every single month. People binge these episodes like it's the latest hit Netflix show. It really crossed over from just being a podcast to being a full-on cultural force.
So what's the secret sauce here? Well, it's actually super simple, and that's the genius of it. You've got Ashley Flowers, who does all the deep dive research and lays out the story for you step by step. And then you have her friend, Britt Prowett, who's basically us, the listener. She asks the questions we're thinking, she has the reactions we're having. It makes it feel like you're right there on the couch with them. No complicated jargon, just pure, gripping storytelling.
And it got so big that the name itself, Crime Junkie, became, well, an identity. People don't just say they listen to the podcast, they say they are a crime junkie. It's like a badge of honor, you know? It created this huge community of people who all share the same fascination.
Okay, so that brings us back to that big question. What is it, psychologically, that gets us so hooked? Why can't we stop listening?
Well, experts think it comes down to this really powerful mix of four things. First up, our own survival instincts. Seriously. On some level, when we listen to these stories, we're subconsciously taking mental notes, right? Learning what red flags to look for, how to spot danger. It's almost like a what not to do guide. Then there's empathy. We just can't help but connect with the victims and what their families are going through. It's a very human thing. Of course, you've also got the safe thrill aspect. It's like a horror movie. You get that adrenaline rush, that suspense, but from the safety of your own couch, no real danger to you. And finally, there's the pursuit of justice. We are just wired to want to see the puzzle solved, to see the bad guy get caught. It's that desire for closure. And that combo, that's the potent cocktail that keeps people coming back for more.
But just as the show was reaching these incredible heights, the whole success story hit a massive, very public roadblock.
Yeah, in 2019, a huge controversy erupted that really divided the entire true crime world.
So here's what happened. A number of journalists and even other podcasters started coming forward, accusing the show of using their original reporting, their hard work, without giving them proper credit. And this sparked a massive debate. On one side, you had people who felt totally betrayed. But on the other, a lot of fans defended the show, saying, hey, doesn't every true crime podcast just retell stories from other sources? It got really heated.
And really, this whole thing blew up because it touched on a huge ethical debate that's at the heart of the entire genre. I mean, on the one hand, a show like this can be amazing for victim advocacy. It puts a spotlight on cold cases, it keeps victims' names in the public consciousness. But there's another side to it. Are we just turning someone's absolute worst nightmare, a family's tragedy, into entertainment, into something we just consume and move on from? It's a tough question.
But look, despite all the controversy and the really valid questions it raised, you just can't deny the show's massive lasting impact. Here's the bottom line. This show was a game changer. It took true crime from being this kind of niche hobby for a specific group of people and rocketed it straight into the mainstream. Love it or hate it, Crime Junkie is a huge reason why everyone started talking about true crime. And that's why it's so important to remember that behind all the millions of downloads, these aren't just stories. They're real people, real families, and, in many cases, real, painful, unsolved tragedies. Cases like the disappearance of Lauren Spear, a college student who just vanished after a night out. Her case is still unsolved, and the show brought her story to millions of people who had never heard it before.
Or the incredibly tragic and complicated case of Alyssa Turney, a story with so many twists and turns, and one that highlights a family's relentless fight just to get answers.
So for the listener, what's the takeaway? Well, it's a way to deal with our own fears in a controlled environment. It's a way to practice empathy, and for a lot of people, it's a way to stay aware of the injustices out there in the world, beyond our own bubbles.
And that really brings us full circle, back to that central dilemma. Crime Junkie didn't just become a huge podcast. It created a movement. But it also forces all of us to ask that really difficult question. Where is the line between raising awareness and just creating entertainment? It's a question that's still being debated, and it really defines the complicated legacy of this show and the entire true crime boom it helped build.